I go live now. Okay, I'm already okay. Now it's live. Yes, perfect. Okay, so I need to use the key. I need to use the key. All right. Hmm. Okay, this is what we're doing. Let's jump in quickly. Non-equilibrium thermodynamics, non-equilibrium steady state physics. This work has been done most prominently the by the physicist, neuroscientist Carl Friston. I have been really interested in his work, his free energy principle, since a year now, since I started my podcast on this channel itself, which was on consciousness. I was trying to understand consciousness. The actual idea that I had in the first episode of that podcast was to research the hypotheses, hypotheses of hypotheses that is consciousness a result of electromagnetic fields, and there is a lot of research done on that over the years. I started with Susan Pocket's work. Susan Pocket is, I think, an Australian neuroscientist. She had written some papers and some books on the electromagnetic basis of consciousness. But soon I realized the actual problem of the hard problem of consciousness, which was put forth by who was that guy? The hard problem of consciousness, Thomas Nagel, or someone else. A lot of people have worked on this problem over the years, and the problem with this field is that it has not been taken seriously for a lot of its history. If you are a neuroscientist and you say that you're talking about and you're working on consciousness, people wouldn't take you seriously because people would it was it was kind of like working towards the understanding of the basis of quantum physics. It's a similar kind of um, objection by the scientific community. It has been rather, just as physicists have been discouraged from, what's the word? Discouraged from pursuing the underlying basis of quantum physics. Similarly, neuroscientists and psychologists, I guess, also have been dissuaded from going to the going and trying to figure out what consciousness is. And I don't know why science, a lot of people have criticized that stance of scientific community, and rightly so, I believe. And a lot of people have broken that barrier through sheer, in both areas, in physics as well as in neuroscience, over the years, because a lot of people objected to the objection, and slowly but surely people have started questioning. Sean Carroll, in the physics side, has written some books on the history of quantum physics, and this this field, consciousness, has been taken over by people like Anil Seth and Christoph Koch, who has been who who worked with the guy. Who's that guy? The DNA fame, the guy from DNA fame. Oh, I don't remember. But yeah, they have been working on the neural correlates of consciousness, where they try to understand what kind of conscious phenomenon is correlated to what firings of the firing of neurons in the brain. So relating that, okay, if you see the color red, this means this and this neurons are firing, and if you feel pain, this is what we see in the fMRI um, readings, and the electro. These are the waves created in the brain according to that um, according to that particular feeling in the subject's brain. Okay, all that is fine. All that research is very interesting. This work, the Carl Friston's work, comes from his his um, his experience working as a doctor, a psychologist, trying to help patients who suffer from schizophrenia. Schizophrenia, yes, schizophrenia, yes, schizophrenics. Schizophrenia. The idea, schizophrenia, if you don't know about it, has symptoms of people hearing things that are not there, and even in some extreme cases, seeing things that are not there. And but most common is the hearing aspect. There is a voice in their head which they do not identify with, which they do not think that it's their own. It feels alien to them, and they act upon that. They feel like it's God speaking. Some of them do feel like it's God speaking to them, and who's that mathematician who suffered from this? John Nash. Nash, the guy. His last name is Nash. I don't remember his first name. Nash equilibrium is something he made. John Nash. Yeah, John Nash. A Beautiful Mind is the movie on his life. Russell Crowe. Yes. So he is an example of a patient of schizophrenia. I don't think that movie is quite accurate in terms of what the symptoms were. I may be wrong. He may have something else, because he, in that movie, is facing, um, in that movie, he's facing some, um, he's watching, he's witnessing, he has some friends who don't age at all. This girl he sees again and again, this friend of his, this guy who's um, who he thought was his roommate, until he realized that they gave him a room without a roommate. I don't know if all that is true from his life. I might check sometime when if I'm making a video on that later on. I guess there's so many topics to make videos on. Anyway, so schizophrenia. This guy Carl Friston worked with patients of schizophrenia, and that was his background. And he realized that there is a way to explain the misfirings of the brain, uh, the wrongs that happen to the brain if we go a little deeper into the reason, the way things are, the way the brain is designed, right? The way the brain is, right? The way the brain is working, the way the brain is, um, the way we have, what are the first principles of uh, a brain? That's that's what he started working on afterwards. He has a couple of interviews which I really love. One of them is with these two are podcasts. One of them is with Sean Carroll, who I mentioned, who is the quantum physics pioneer, and this is one of the really interesting uh, uh, podcast episodes where he explains how he was trying to build up the theory of the free energy principle, the principle, not rather than the theory, the principle. A principle. The difference between a principle and a theory is a principle is a theory about theories. A principle is like a meta theory, like the principle of conservation of energy is 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 something that every theory has to accept, not accept, has to agree with. Otherwise the theory is wrong. If a principle is like a higher level of a more meta level of theory, um, and he comes up with this principle of free energy, the free energy principle. What it is it's a big topic, and this is not the video that I will explain all that topic in. That's a huge topic. I've been struggling to really understand and grasp it um, completely over the last year. I've read books and I've listened to his talks, and it's really something that has a lot of interesting ideas, a lot of different ideas, and it's not going to be. I'm not going to cover that in this video. All I'm doing in this video, because so I was listening to Sean Carroll's episode with Carl Friston yesterday, his podcast, and he mentioned something about this. He mentioned something about non equilibrium. I shouldn't type non equilibrium steady state physics, non equilibrium steady state physics. And a lot of those ideas come from that. Yes, how the brain works. How the brain works. I mean, see, again, his ideas, according to him, are something called deflationary. What does that mean? It means the free energy principle is not going to explain not why the brain works the way it works. This is not the question, but rather the question explains if the brain works, or actually, rather, if anything in this world exists, it must follow, it must within it contain a model of the world. Something like that. It's a very deep idea. If something has to exist, if something exists, let's say an oil drop exists in water. This is one of the examples he uses in another podcast episode, which is with Lex Friedman or Friedman. I don't know how you say his name. Lex Friedman. Lex Friedman. His podcast is also very interesting. Rather a different way of interviewing. He has a different way of interviewing as opposed to Sean Carroll. Sean Carroll is a scientist, a rather top tier scientist, really knowledgeable about a lot of physics. And Lex Friedman is more of a he's from his background is he's a very technical person. His background is neural networks, computer science, but he's a layman in terms of so his episode is also very interesting to listen to. And Carl Friston is the guy, and this is the idea. It's a deflationary argument. He's not trying to he's not trying to explain why things exist or why things are living or why things are non-living. He's trying to explain if he's trying to say that if something exists, it must contain a model of the world within itself. And those ideas come from in yesterday's episode he explains that those ideas come from non-equilibrium steady state physics, non-equilibrium steady state physics, non-equilibrium steady state physics. So this video is just this is where we'll make a boundary of the purpose of this video, which is very important. You have to understand what to exclude, because this is the biggest problem I have faced in older videos, where I would start with some idea, and I wouldn't know where to stop, because I would read something and that would change the idea, and my video all of a sudden would become 10 minutes long and no one would watch it, and which is not a good thing in YouTube algorithm sense. And yeah, that's what you have to figure out. So this video is just going to give an introduction to what does it mean to what does the phrase what does the phrase non-equilibrium steady state physics mean? What does it mean? And how and why is it so interesting to understand? Why is it so interesting? That's all. Why is it so interesting? And why is it so interesting? Question mark. This is the purpose of the video. Non-equilibrium steady state physics. What does it mean? What is non-equilibrium? What is steady state? And what is physics? We all know what's physics. Non-equilibrium, I believe I know what's non-equilibrium. Before going into the actual this thing, non-equilibrium thermodynamics. What is equilibrium? Equilibrium is when everything is in the same. This is, I think, my first ever video that I put on my channel about entropy and how entropy causes things to come into equilibrium. Equilibrium is kind of bad for life. Equilibrium means everything is in an equilibrium. Hot, there is no hot and there is no cold. Everything is at the same temperature. And when that happens, the entropy is the highest it can be, and life cannot exist. Life cannot exist when that is the case, because life because life or anything, even the sun cannot exist, or because there is no difference in energy density. That's what is required for life to exist. A difference in energy density. There needs to be an area of hotness and another area of coldness, and one is a source of heat and the other one is a source of cold. Or this is, I think you cannot see it. The Carnot heat engine requires this thing and requires this thing. If it's equilibrium, there is no hot and cold. Equilibrium is equal equilibrium, equal temperatures. Okay, so that's what I think non-equilibrium is. And steady state, I think, is that, like, so our bodies are not in equilibrium, but they are in a steady state. These terms for layman are confusing. It feels like steady state sounds like equilibrium. Steady state, it's a state which is steady. It's a state which is steady, but it's not equilibrium. It is not equilibrium. Equilibrium in thermodynamics is just death. Everything is just dead. Nothing can happen. Maximum entropy, heat, death of the universe. Everything is at the same temperature. Nothing can survive. Nothing can live. Complete lack of any information. Right? That is non-equilibrium. And but steady, but that is equilibrium. But bodies are not in that equilibrium. Bodies are in this non-equilibrium state where we are actually taking in energy from the outside, mainly through food and the chemical energy of the food, and giving off heat through our body and the work we do on the. So we dissipate heat to the outside, and we take in this highly concentrated heat, sorry, this highly concentrated energy of food. So we are in this state where we are we are in this state where we are dancing on the we are dancing. Why is there a big space here? Okay. We are dancing in this state of non equilibria. This word is so hard to type. Non equilibria. But there is a sense of stability. Something called homeostasis. Homeostasis. It's a balance. Homeostasis is a balance between, we have these things in our, we have the liver, the pancreas, the kidneys, the heart and the lungs, of course, all these things, and enzymes and hormones and all this whole system, the immune system and the nervous system, I guess. All these systems are keeping us in this balance between too high and too low. Have you ever gone to have done tests done, and you will the result of the test is between two values, the min and the max. Whatever value it is, the blood pressure shouldn't be lower than this or higher than that. So there is the balance between too high and too low and too high, and that balance has to be kept if you want to live, and that is called homeostasis. And I think that is what this means when it says non-equilibrium steady state. All right, this is what my prior knowledge is. Um, First step now. Okay, this is my prior knowledge. All right, for this video. And why is it interesting? Because homeostasis explains emotions and feelings that occur in the mind. This is the crucial point put forward by this guy called Antonio Damasio. Antonio Damasio. Something to do with emotions and feelings. Homeostasis. Homeostasis is the reason, is the explanation for why emotions arise in the mind. Damasio spelling is wrong. What's wrong? Damasio, A capital. Sorry, not A capital. D-A. Antonio Damasio. He's again a very brilliant physicist. He's a physicist or a biologist, or I don't know. I don't know exactly what his background is. He has this book called The Strange Order of Things. Very nice book. I haven't read it completely. There's so many books related to these The Strange Order of Things. In this book, he's trying to explain the idea that emotions occur much before in our much too very early in the evolutionary history. The way bacteria behave tells us something about the fact that they might also be feeling some emotion. There must be something happening in that conscious sphere, which is a very contentious thing to say in the field of neuroscience and psychology, because a lot of people don't believe that bacteria have anything resembling a nervous system. So since emotions and feelings are primarily a domain of the nervous system, this creates a lot of interesting new ideas, and this is something is interesting. Again, this is such a I'm such a layman. I'm such a non. I have no idea about these things. All these, I have no, and I'm trying to make a video on it. I don't know how that works, but this is what it is, and here I am making a video, and we are dancing in the state of non-equilibria together, but there is a sense of stability, and that is called homeostasis. All right. Why is it interesting? Because homeostasis explains emotions and feelings that occur in the mind. So this is the whole video. This is the video, but I'm not going to explain everything, but I'm just going to touch upon it. Non-equilibrium steady state, what it is, why is it important? That's all. And I wanted to keep this video 1 minute long, but again, when I think about it, when I think about all the ideas that are behind it, I won't be able to give it just 1 minute long video. But if we can keep the domain of the video small enough, I think it's possible. 1 minute long video just trying to explain, maybe 2 minutes. I don't know. Let's not go above 2 minutes. I guess 1.5 minutes is the thing. So this is another paper. These two are things that I'm have open on my screen, and it would require a long time to read this whole paper and get something out of it, which might not be too conducive to a good stream session. It's already half an hour long. And I don't know why am I doing this stream. There are two, is one concurrent viewer. Average watch time is 14.9. Yeah, good, interesting. Someone is watching. Someone is watching. That you use a stream bitrate of 4500. All right, so this is a good start. I have written down the story. This is a simple story. Now I'll do some research on my own time. And the next part of this video is next part of the stream is going to happen in a few hours when I come back with some ideas, and I write a script, and I'll write a script, and then I will shoot the video. It's going to mostly be my face in front of the camera, uh, because I have a new mic. I have a new mic. I'll show you. This is something new. I have a Rode mic that attaches to the camera, which makes it really easy to make videos. This is not something that I was doing earlier. This is not something that I was doing earlier. Um, I had an extra mic. This was my mic before, but would anyway. So I'm trying to explain my process here in on stream, which might be interesting to some people, and give some ideas to the. Okay, so the difference between equilibrium, non-equilibrium state variables, local equilibrium, thermodynamics, all these ideas are stationary states. Ponderable matter, what is that? Wow. Entropy in evolving systems, entropy in non-equilibrium. It's big ideas. Oh man, I'm scared of maths. I won't be. I'll be frank here. I'm scared of maths, but I try to dip my feet a little bit in maths. Okay, this is the other paper. Introduction is illustration on an exactly soluble model. Okay, fluctuations from transition probabilities. What are these things? The paper is meant to be an overview of three previous papers. OM approach to study fluctuations of systems. What? This is such a high level paper. What is the abstract? A number of properties of systems in a non equilibrium steady state are investigated by generalization of Onsager Mac. I won't say it. I won't butcher it. Path integral approach for systems in equilibrium. So this is a really high level paper, but let's give it a read. A thermodynamics formally identical to that in an equilibrium state can be formulated, but with definitions of work and heat as those needed to maintain the non-equilibrium steady state. In this approach, the heat plays a crucial role and is directly related to the different behavior of a system forward and backward paths in time in an appropriate function space. This is whew. I just wanted a simple explanation of why non-equilibrium, what is non-equilibrium steady state. All right, I'll figure something out and we'll get back to you guys. Hopefully with some